Hello, and right now we have our very special guest. His name is Mark Lindkvist. He is veteran of Air Force of American Army, Army of the United States of America. Hello, Mark.
Hi, Mark.
Hello, my friend.
This is Victoria. She will help me. Tell us, please, what's going on? Where are you and what are you doing?
Well, I'm in Fargo, North Dakota, where it's usually 27 below Celsius. And we're here on a 40-hour ruck march inspired by the folks at the Kharkiv Media Hub who are doing the 40-hour marathon. In solidarity with them, I've been out here marching for the past 37 hours. I've got 3 hours to go, and we're raising money for a veteran rehabilitation center that our NGO partners want to start for our veterans in Kyiv. And so, been gathering support from the local community, and so many Americans are sending their support to the Ukrainians and want to let you know that they stand and act with and for you.
It's incredible. Could you tell us, please, what's going on in your life when you decide to do all this job? What changed? How changed your life after all? So, what happened?
With the march, are you talking about?
Yes, of course, after full-scale invasion.
Yeah. I mean, it changed my life in the manner which kind of was like when I enlisted in the United States Air Force and decided to serve my country and defend freedom. And when the full-scale invasion occurred, those same feelings came up again. And I said, oh, my goodness, there is a sovereign nation who is in search of freedom from tyranny. And those are the same values, the same themes that the American military fights against and preserves around the world. Now, I haven't been in the American military for 10 years. I'm 41 years old. And, you understand, American active duty troops can't cross the border right now as ordered by the president. So who can go and help? American veterans. And so it's been my honor to serve the Ukrainian people, my honor to support the Ukrainian army, and I've found friends for life, and I love Ukraine.
It sounds amazing. As far as I remember, Victoria spent a few years in North Carolina.
Okay, I haven't seen that coming, but yeah, that's true. Yeah, firstly, Mark, really, really thank you for what you're doing. That's really huge. Talking about your veteran experience, as you know, one of the biggest post-conflict security challenges around Ukraine would be the rehabilitation process. Do you have any ideas on how we can facilitate that? Like maybe from your experience, any ideas?
Absolutely. The American veterans that have had success reintegrating into society after their service, we make sure that they have battle buddies in post-military life as well, people that can relate to their service. Because the average civilian doesn't know what military life is like. 93% of our population in America never had military service. And so we have created in America a couple different organizations that came out of World War II. The American Legion, the Veterans of Foreign Wars, American Veterans, we call AMVETS. And they always have a location. It's usually a bar, let's be honest, it's a restaurant. And that's where veterans can gather and know that the person sitting next to them at the bar or restaurant understands them, speaks the same language, has similar experiences. Because if you don't have anybody who can relate to your experience, it's very lonely. And many times, some of the reason why we lose some of our veterans to post-service suicide is because they don't have anybody to connect to. And so that would be one of my recommendations, is to create a space for people and veterans to gather.
How do you think whether Ukrainian situation going to be different? Because when we're talking about American veterans, like one of the problems is I see that, correct me if I'm wrong, that when soldiers are coming back from the places they served, they see that, as you said, that no one understands what they passed through. But here we're talking not in Ukraine, not only about soldiers, but also about people who just suffered from war. Like, will it be some like very weird perspective maybe easier in rehabilitation process, because all the soldiers who are coming back, all the veterans, they're gonna understand that all these people around, they pass through, maybe, of course, definitely not the same experience, but like at least they know what artillery shelling looks like.
Quite similar.
Right.
Like whether it will be helpful.
I really do, because bonds are created through shared experience, right? And if the civilians also understand such threats and trauma, I think that can and will be somewhat helpful to create some camaraderie between the veteran and the civilian. And on the civilian side as well, I would do this. You have the same recommendation to make sure that we are intentional about creating opportunities for those who have experienced trauma on the civilian side of the equation, to allow them to gather with others who you might be able to relate to. Because certainly there might be somebody in the civilian world that did see live bombing and destruction, and someone that didn't and maybe got out earlier. And so to make sure that they have an opportunity to connect to one another and know that one another exists in their community, I think would be a smart move.
Nice. Yeah. Could you please tell us more about your experience? This is not your first action, right, in the States. Could you tell us more about your experience in the tent during this snowfall, enormous snowfall, and like I can't imagine how did you survive?
Well, it was really because I needed to get the attention of the American people. There's a lot of things you can be distracted by in America. And, I was doing news interviews, I was doing public speeches and gatherings to tell people about what's happening in Ukraine. And it was the Christmas season, and people were a little bit distracted, understandably. And so I said, what do you got to do? What do you got to do to get their attention about the most important thing happening on planet Earth, which is the war in Ukraine? So I decided that, well, I'm an entertainer, I'm a performer, I'm a public figure, I'm the perfect candidate for a publicity stunt. And so I got my tent, because at the time I was being asked for winter weather gear. Ilko, you and I talked about preparing for winter 8 months ago, right?
8 months ago.
And so we still needed winter weather gear. And I figured that the best way to draw attention to that was to show people what military life is. Because military people, we don't get to choose the weather, right? You just have to dig the trench where your sergeant tells you to dig it, and you can't control the temperature. So I got in my tent. I got my permits available from the city where I live, of Fargo, North Dakota, and then was able to camp for 16 nights and 17 days in my vinyl tent, and it was 40 below Celsius here, and there was snowfall a foot deep, and it really made it clear to the local people here in America what military members have to endure. And so they poured in $100,000 worth of winter weather gear, and $45,000 we raised cash, and the American people really responded to our plea for winter weather gear.
It's enormous.
Do you plan to do something like that during the summer, somewhere in enormous heat, to show like the opposite?
And then you can show your tattoo, man. That's a moment.
Yes. I would be up for anything. I'll be living in Kyiv, so if we want to do that together, I'm in. I'll do anything.
I need a very special order to do it, Could you please tell us more about your plans for rehabilitation center in Kyiv? So, like, how did it happen? How did it start? Whom we should thank to?
Yes, and really my NGO partner, they have a charity fund there. Her name is Anna Filipova. And so she has turned me on to this idea that we can create a space. She's identified a location to renovate for veterans. And she knows some therapy. She's a therapy student. She is now studying psychology. And so she has had ideas that she wants to implement for the benefit of our soldiers. And I said, absolutely, I want to be a part of anything that has to do with helping post-service veterans rehabilitate and feel normal again. And so she asked me if I could help raise some money. That's what I'm doing full time in Ukraine for the next, well, till we win the war, is being a professional fundraiser. And so this is the first of many fundraisers that we will do for causes like this.
Till victory, sir. Thank you.
And probably probably again as fundraiser, you get lots of questions about Ukraine. Like, can you share like what people interested in like the most? What for people who've never been to Ukraine, who had probably heard nothing about Ukraine before, like what they would like to know?
You know, unfortunately, we in the United States of America are two oceans that separate us, isolate us from a lot of knowledge of the rest of the world. And so a lot of people will ask very basic questions like, how is it going in Ukraine? Is the war still going on in Ukraine? Some people ask me, astonishingly. But they'll ask about, they hear about the power going out and they ask about that. They'll hear about places like Bakhmut and they want to know if I have an update from there. And so, unfortunately, it's very basic knowledge that the American people have about Ukraine. And so I'm more than willing to sit down and talk to them and tell them everything I know and how they can help. That's the other thing, is that many Americans do not know how to help people in Ukraine because they don't know anybody there. A lot of Americans do not travel to Ukraine on their European vacations. And so it's been a joy to be able to educate the American people about the spirit of the Ukrainian people, how powerful you are, how tenacious you are, the unity that I see in Ukrainian society joining together for a higher cause. And so we're doing our best to spread the word and get people up to speed on this war.
I wanted again to thank you. You have a great hat with a great slogan on it. Glory to Ukraine. Especially from Kharkiv to Kharkiv. You know, Fargo is almost like, sounds like Kharkiv, you know.
Yes. We got snow right back here. Awesome. Love you guys. Slava Ukraini. Can't wait to get back to Kharkiv.
Thank you very much. Have fun. Stay safe.
You got it.